Hey guys, Angelo Esquivel here, back with another shrimp tank update and a small revelation, I guess you would say, about a little trick that I had used to ensure the survival of shrimp when I get them. And why, I think, at least, I figured out why it works. So, right there in the middle of your screen is a big, fat, ugly planaria. Okay, these things are the bane of my existence next to pest snails. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people say, oh, planaria, they're just unsightly and harmless. Couldn't be further from the truth. I've said it in previous videos and I'll say it again. When planaria move, they release a kind of ooze, a slime that contains tetrodotoxin, which is a type of neurotoxin that can easily kill newly molted shrimp. So, with all these molts, from shrimp that, get their exoskeleton going, they become completely susceptible to the neurotoxin of these planaria. And yes, there is a medication for planaria. It's called no planaria. Takes 3 days to work, but during that time, you may continue to see some shrimps pass away. And here's the funny thing about all that. I've had a lot of success with my little neon yellow buddies here, breeding and doing well. I've got a lot of mama shrimp, shrimps to be. But these little guys are most likely responsible for the death of a number of my shrimp. Now, every day for the last few days I keep coming down here, I see a dead shrimp. Only one at a time, though. And I check the water parameters. Everything's fine. I do a water change. Everything's fine. I can't figure out what's wrong. And then I see these little guys, and sure enough, those are probably the reason. Now, to my revelation, which is a few tanks over, hornworts. For whatever reason, I found that when shrimp have hornworts in their tank, they tend to do very, very well. Their death rate when newly introduced, or even with just having it in there in general, is much lower. And I could never quite figure out why. The hornwort, sure, it absorbs some things that are toxic to the shrimp and helps keep the water nicer, but there wasn't anything particular about it that made it, this little, I don't want to call it miracle, but a little help in preventing shrimp deaths. And I think I know why now. Look at how much surface area hornwort has. Now, what do shrimp love to do? They love to graze on stuff and pick at it, like that little guy right there. Keep it clean. Anywhere there's biofilm, and any place there's a ton of surface area, there's a ton of biofilm, so the shrimp would naturally stay all up on the hornwort. And since hornwort is a plant that can float, it doesn't have to touch anything, but the shrimp can still get to it, which means the shrimp can get to it, but the planaria can't. Which means, unlike the ground that might be infested with an ooze containing tetrodotoxin, they would be up in all of that hornworts, safe and away from the tetrodotoxin. Now, here's the problem with that. It's a band-aid, at best. Eventually your shrimp are going to have to come down, and eventually they will. Especially if you want to feed them a very healthy diet, like I do with mine. I feed them these special veggie pellets, super high in calcium, to aid their growth and exoskeletons. So I have them there, and they fall to the ground. Which means the shrimp will eat them, but they have to come to the ground. Well, I think that's where the planaria try to go as well. But you see all these little things that are being connected now. You start to realize, why things work makes total sense. The ground has planaria. The planaria release ooze that has a neurotoxin that affects newly molted shrimp. Newly molted shrimp go down to the food that has calcium to create a better exoskeleton. While they're down there, the neurotoxin stuns them. But if you have the hornwort, then they're floating above the ground where the planaria can't get to, and are therefore not subjected to the neurotoxin from the planaria, and thus they have a higher chance of survival. Makes sense. I think I finally cracked out why hornwort does such a good job at helping shrimp. But that doesn't get rid of the overall problem. Like I said, it's a band-aid. We still have to kill the planaria. It's unsightly, but it's also deadly. So, I've been dosing my tank again for these darn little worms. And hopefully I don't lose too many shrimp due to these things. But that is the unfortunate reality of planaria. Sneaky little guys, huh?